What is going on, guys? Back at you again with another video. This time it's going to actually be Gear Club 2 on Yuzu Emulation and Eden Emulation. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Gear Club 2 on those particular emulators with the DLC and even the FPS patch and the update only runs at 30 FPS. But in today's video, we're actually going to showcase what it looks like without the assigned DLC, the uncapped FPS mod, and even the DLC as well too. I only hope that in the future, before Gear Club 3 actually initially released, which I highly doubt that anybody would work on the FPS mod, would actually be able to help make a patch for it, because I think it's pretty meaningless to play the game on Yuzu Emulation if you own the PC port, which is what I'm actually playing on right now. Granted, I like surfacing through different emulations for the same games anyways, just to test things out. As somebody who actually enjoys playing Gear Club games, I enjoyed Gear Club 1 and 2, but hopefully, there'll be somebody out there to actually release a patch for it, because, it's a really good game. I actually like it. It's pretty underrated. But in this particular video, we'll be showcasing that, and I'll be using Yuzu and Eden for the sake of this particular video. So without further ado, let's get started. So for this particular part of the video, we're going to be using Yuzu for Gear Club 2 without the updates and the DLC. So I'm just going to show you guys real quick what it actually looks like without the DLC and the update. I'm not sure if any of you guys necessarily tested out, but I like actually testing out what the games look like without the update and the DLC. There's very few Switch games that actually operate in 30 FPS, and sometimes when you take the DLC and the update away from those particular games, they run higher. I think when there are necessarily patches that are put into the game, you actually see a difference. So now I'm gonna actually activate the uncapped, and as you can tell, the game actually is in 69 to 73 FPS. And the only reason why I said it that way was because I felt that it didn't necessarily need to be any higher than that. It was just pretty much for testing. But as you can see, the game runs fluid without having to be in that choppy 30 FPS. And I don't know why that's really the case, because most of the time I think it's kind of irrelevant to play games without DLCs and updates and so forth. But I noticed that when you take that away initially, it actually makes the games run smoother. I don't think, at least in my opinion, that you would necessarily need the DLC or the update and stuff unless you want to play the Porsche DLC and some of the other stuff included into it. But that's just preference at the end of the day. I love Gear Club 2 regardless if it had the DLC or not. But I just thought it was very interesting how this game could actually perform above 30 FPS when I took those things away. And as you can tell, the game plays very, very well, actually. You can actually do a full playthrough. I was able to do a full playthrough with this without the DLC and the update, and it was actually pretty simple. Now we're gonna go into the other portion of this video where we're going to show it with the DLC and the update. And now, as you can see, the choppy 30 FPS gameplay on Eden Emulation. And the only reason why I changed over to this particular emulation was because I felt that it would have been kind of a waste to add the DLC and everything again. But I just don't understand why is it that the game is capable of running in above 60 FPS versus the choppy 30. And as you can tell, even with me unlocking the FPS, it doesn't really make much of a difference, which kind of sucks, because I'm sure that this game, even with an FPS patch, could actually run above that. But yeah, it's pretty crappy. In terms of gameplay and stuff like that, I'm sure that there's people that don't mind if you're on PC versus being on Android emulation, which, you know, there's no lossless scaling. You can actually use lossless scaling to make the game look like it's running in 60 FPS, because lossless scaling is a amazing tool to use. But then you would have to argue that if that was really the case, you would necessarily have to use the PC port of gearclub 2 if you're on PC. But actually, this is just not just only for people who are using emulation on PC, but also on Android. So if you're on Android and you're using Eden or Yuzu and stuff, and you want to play the game above 60 FPS, if you have the hardware for it, all you have to do is just unlock the FPS. I'm sure that it's pretty simple to do that. But you would have to make sure that you don't have the DLC or the update for it. Kind of sucks, you know. Switch hardware, I would figure that most of the games don't necessarily have that problem with running above 30. But then there's games like this that run at, you know, 30 FPS, which sucks. You know, again, I love gearclub 2, but you know, it's such a crappy ordeal to see that, you know, there's mods and stuff like that for the other games in the lineup, but there's not necessarily an FPS mod for this one. And even so, by applying one from, you know, Banana, I forgot which website this was particularly, but you still run through those issues anyway, so still stay locked at it. But again, you know, people with modded switches, they could be able to change the FPS with FPS locker and so forth. But this was just a quick presentation of, you know, showcasing what the game looks like without the DLC and the update versus with the DLC and the update. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. I really appreciate that. I would like to know you guys' feedback when it comes down to why gearclub 2 performs that way without the DLC and the update. I'm sure that there's obvious answers for it. I mean, there's really no further explanation as to why that really is the case, because some games, again, they work standard 30 FPS and they cannot be changed even with a mod of some sort. There are some games that are a bit popular than others too, and they work flawlessly, and you know, they don't have that particular problem when it comes down to the emulation standpoint. It really is such a shame, because I'm sure that there's a bunch of people that love gearclub 2 that would actually like for there to be some form of FPS mod. But again, it could be argued that you could play on PC, you know, if you have a PC. But you know, for those who are on Android that don't have any other way, you know, it's pretty shitty. But again, gearclub 3 comes out in December, 3 days away from my birthday, might I add. And it's gonna be an amazing game, you know, and I don't think that many people who actually play gearclub 2 are even gonna play gearclub 2 as much anymore when that game releases, which I don't blame them, because it is a new product, and gearclub 2 has come a long way, you know. I've stated this in my previous videos that I find it very unique, the evolution of gearclub from 1, 2, and now 3. And I also specifically explained that some of the developers from Gameloft, the ones who created GT Racing 2, the real experience, actually went over to the company that made this particular game as well too. So I find that to be rather interesting, considering the fact that they have came a long way. But I will do a side-by-side comparison between both gearclub 2 and GT Racing 2, because when you look at both games, you can see the significant difference between both of them, but there are a lot of similarities. Makes you really wonder if they had made it a console port, or at least a good PC port. Not to say that the one on Windows Store is bad, but if they made that port, it actually probably would have done very well. But either way it goes, thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to upload more gearclub 2 videos in the near future, as my schedule is very busy and I don't necessarily have as much time as I used to upload. But again, this is Synergy signing off, and peace out.